Yeah, everybody, my name is Tom Perrin. I live in Wesley Chapel, Florida. I'm a home brewer. I've been brewing beers for the last about 3 years. I've made probably about, I think this is like my 8th batch. I've made some lagers, some ales, Hetzweizen. This recipe I'm doing today is a Peachtree IPA. I got it online. It was an award-winning IPA, so I decided to copy it over to Bearsmith, and I'm going to brew this up today. I got my kettle already, my spike brewing kettle right there. I got that already going. It's almost at the right temperature for me to start my mash. And here's my what I mash in right here. Take a look. Sorry, this is a little shaky here. Take a look here. This is my mash tun. I use a PVC filter system. Every piece of PVC in there on the bottom side of it has little drilled out holes. Does a great job filtering all of the liquid and keeping all the grain from going into my kettle, my boil kettle. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here in a second, because I'm right at the temperature I need to be to start drawing off and putting this hot water into my mash tun. And then I got my grain over here sitting here. This is roughly about 14 and a half pounds of grain, 2-row, a lot of 2-row in there. Munich, got some Munich in there. I got what else here? Put the sun. And some caramel crystal 20 and some caramel crystal 40. So roughly what I've got here is 11 pounds 12 ounces of pale malt 2-row, 1 pound of 6.4 ounce Munich malt, 13 and a half ounces of caramel crystal 20, and 12 ounces of caramel crystal 20 40. So I'm going to be using some for my hops today: Nugget, Simcoe, Amarillo. I'm going to use dry yeast, and I'm going to actually do some dry hopping on this for 5 days, the last 5 days. So I'm going to go ahead and get this into the mash tun, and I'll be back with you. All right, I'm back. I went ahead and transferred over the water, actually 5.5 gallons out of 11 gallons of water. I transferred it over. It's like 165 degrees. It needs to be about 161, but I knew I'm going to do a little filming here and a little delay before I start mashing in, so I wanted to bring it up just a little bit higher. As you can see down here, this is the actual grain I'm going to be using right here. And I already told you what that consisted of. That's going to go in this mash tun here in a second. I'm going to dough it in. That means I'm going to take a little paddle here like this. I'm going to dough it in. I'm going to make sure all the clumps are out of there. I'm going to stir it up. I'm going to get some temps. If the temperature's too high, I'm going to keep mixing it until I get the temperature down to 150 degrees. Once I get it 150, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid down and let it sit for about 10 minutes. And I'll come back and I'll do a pH test to see where I'm at pH-wise. So I might have to add some citric acid to it. I'm thinking I'm going to be a little high. So it's probably going to be about 5.7, 5.8. I want to be down to like 5.2, 5.3 as far as pH goes. So let me get this mashed in. I'll try to pull this back up while I'm mashing in so you can see the process a little bit. All right, I'll be back. You can see right here, this is the mash that's in here. I gotta work this in, make sure I get all the dough balls out of there, okay? Now I know I got the PVC system and a lot of runners that are running kind of up and down. So I'm just barely on top of that right now, that filter. The second I'm going to work in between those pipes, because I know there they are right there. I'm working kind of in between those pipes. At this point, this is about a 1 to 0.25 quarts of water per pound of grain. Okay, that's about where you want to be, 1.25 to 1.5. So, because you don't want it way too loose and you don't want it way too tight. Now this grain is going to absorb some of this water here. So when I drain this, I put in 5.5 gallons. I'm not going to get 5.5 gallons out of this because the grain is absorbing some of this. So I'm hoping to get at least 3.5 to maybe 4 gallons. So we'll see. But let me go ahead and do a temperature check here on this. See kind of where we're at. Said I want to be at 150. About where I need to be, 150. Okay, so I need to shut this down quick. I think I got a good mash in there. Alright, stop that. Alright, I'm back. So I got the temperature. You seen I had the temperature at 150. I mean, that's right there. So anytime I open this up from here on out, even when I check the pH, I risk losing my 150 temperature and it going down. It's hard enough to hold this temperature at 150 for the whole 60 minutes. But what I do is I just throw some an old blanket and towel on top of that, just to try to keep as much heat in that cooler as possible. I mean, you keep that closed, you can hold it to a degree of one loss. You might lose 1 degree of temperature. You might hold the whole 150 for the whole hour. An hour and a half, I don't know. I don't normally mash an hour and a half. Some people do some 90-minute mashes. I pretty much stick to the 60 minutes for most of what I do. So that's going to be there. I'm going to check the pH here in a little bit. Probably won't film that, but we will film when I start draining this after the 1 hour mark and doing the sparging. Okay? Bye. Yeah, I'm back. It's like 1:45 now, and I got everything in the mash tun at right about 1 o'clock. So we got about 15 minutes to go. I'm going to start bringing my remaining amount of water in my kettle, which will be my strike water. I'm going to bring that back up to temp. It dropped off to like 140 because I put all the water in there in the beginning, and it added some salt and some Epsom salt, some gypsum, and some, I think it was sodium carbonate or something like that. I added that in there. I got to bring that back up to temperature so I can then add that 5.5 in at about 165 degrees to do that sparge over there. I wanted to show you real quick. Let me spin this around. Right over here, if you just take a look on the counter here, I've got some hops laid out there. I'm using Nugget. That's 1.25 ounces. No, sorry, 1.5 ounces. That's going to go in for the whole 60 minutes. I got some Simcoe, which is going to go in the last 5 minutes. That's 1.25 ounces. And some Amarillo, which is going to go in when I whirlpool at the end. That's 1.25 ounces in that one. So that's basically the hop schedule. I'm also going to use some Citra pellets, hops. When I do the like the last 5 days of the fermentation cycle before I pull it out. So that should add a nice aroma to it. If you don't know much about the hops, the longer you put the hops in your boil, that longer time is that's gonna control the bitterness of your beer. So if you put a lot of hops in the very beginning, you're gonna have a very bitter beer. As you progress and add the hops in later, you're gonna get some bitterness out of it. Not quite as much as if you put it in for like that full 60 minutes. But then you start changing from like either a beer being bitter to more of the aroma of the beer, and just giving it a different flavor and not so much just bitterness. So that's why you do the they call it dry hopping, which I'm doing with that 1.25 ounces of the Citra hops at the end of the fermentation, and just letting it sit in there and giving it a nice aroma. So when you put the beer up to your nose, you can smell the flavors. So hopefully a nice kind of citrusy, fruity flavor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to start the drain off, and I'll vorlog it, and I'll bring you in on that. Okay, bye. Hey, I'm back. I'm still draining right here into my kettle here. I'm gonna take a look inside. It's going real slow. Actually, I had a lot more grain absorption than I thought, but with this 5.5 gallons I'm adding in here, I'm thinking I'm gonna be able to come up to 8. And 8 is a good number for me, because if I start at 8 on my boil with evaporation and a little bit of loss in there, I still think I'm gonna be able to get 7 out, and maybe 6.5 out, which is good. I mean, I'm only going to keg 5. I'm kegging 5 in my keg, which is the keg I use right here. I'm only going to keg 5, so I just want to make sure I get 5. And I've been short before, so that's why I'm trying to go a little bit over. But I wanted to go over real quick. Let me turn this around. This is what a good product. This is called Star San, and sanitation is really, really important when you're brewing. So everything gets rinsed with Star San. The kettle, my mash tun, anything that's going to touch this wort, it's gonna get dipped in Star San solution. So I'm making up a batch right now. Again, just going into this bucket here. I'm gonna put that in. And this way, as I take my paddle in and out of the kettle as I'm doing stirring, I'm going to drop it into there. It's not just going to sit somewhere. It's going to go right in here. And I'm going to keep it sanitized so it's not going to contaminate my batch. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Just kind of in there. My hoses, siphon hoses, everything goes into that bucket as I use it. All right, so I'm gonna finish this up, get this over to the burner, my dark star burner, and get it going, get it up to temperature, and we'll add the hops in. Here we're back. Everything's in the kettle here. I ended up coming up with, as you can see, just very shortly shy of 8 gallons. So it was 11 gallons. With losses and grain absorption, I came down to 8, 9, 10, 11, 3 gallons. And that's why you always start with a lot more water than what you're going to end up with. So my temperature here is over 180. I haven't really hit a good boil yet. You'll see that when you get up to about 200, 210. I should get a nice little rolling boil. And then that's when we're going to add our first addition of our hops, which are going to be the nugget. It's this is a one ounce package, but I already cut open one, added the 5 ounce in here, so we got like 1.55 ounces of nugget. That's going to go in for the full 60 minutes. That's when we start our timer. We haven't started our timer yet, so we have to wait till we get to a rolling boil, add hops, then start your timer. I'm going to go 60 minutes. Okay, when we have about 5 minutes remaining out of that 60, we're going to add the Simcoe. When we turn everything off, we're going to do the Amarillo in at what we call Whirlpool. And that's basically it. We cool it down, transfer over to our fermenting container, which I got over here on the shelf. I get one of those sanitized. I think I'm going to use the one with my spigot. I'm going to start with this one and then work over. I'm going to transfer from there to there. That's like doing a secondary. Then I'm going to do some dry hopping in there. But it was this citrus, like this citrus hops, citra hops. So that's about it. So let's go ahead and we'll come back here just in a minute here, because we're almost ready to add our hops in, but just not yet. Hey, we're back. We are getting close, guys. We're almost at the 200. So just very, very shortly from now, this is really going to be a rolling boil. What I do sometimes, I got this little product here. It's called Firm Cap S. It says add 2 drops of this per gallon of liquid at the start of fermentation. This is also something you can use right now. And if you drop this in here this will kind of ease back some of the foam. So I need a little bit more. So I won't get any type of boil over me. Kind of breaks that up a little bit. Kind of good stuff. I'll do a little more. Even though I'm really not worried about a boil over, but I don't want a lot of foam build up here. So that's good. That's good. All right. So you see, we hit a rolling boil. Okay, we're ready, guys. We're ready. So I'm gonna go nuggets. There they are, nuggets, pellet hops, first editions. Alright, sorry, I'm doing this all by hand. I don't have anybody helping me do this filming here, so obviously. So there we go, we're going in. There we go, there's first editions. What do you do now? Keep track of time. Okay, there we are. Those are done. Those can go in the garbage. We're done with that. Come over, paddle. Let's stir in. There we are. Let's get it stirred in. It smells nice. It really does. It smells really good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to check the time, and we'll be back when we go to add the next hop additions. Okay, guys? Hope you're enjoying this and learning a little bit. I'm learning every day, even though I've done about 8 batches. I mean, it's always a learning experience, especially if you don't do them all. You know, you're not doing them all the time. Like I only do I'm only doing like 3 a year. So, you know, when you separate the space there, sometimes you forget things and you got to go back and kind of look at things again and make sure you got everything squared away. So time here, it is 3:15. So I'm looking, I said, about 10 after. At about 10 after 3, we're going to add the next additions. Anyways, there, go Bucks. All right, about an hour has passed. Not an hour, but I said we had to go 55 minutes because we're going to go 5 minutes left of the 60-minute boil, and that would bring us to about 10 after. So looking at the clock up there, that cool Buccaneer clock, it's almost 10 after right now. So we're getting real close. You see here, we're still boiling away. See, here we go. I got a good boil. I know I've evaporated. I started at 8, but I know I've evaporated about a gallon at least. I think I'm at like a 7 gallon mark, and that's, you know, that's gonna happen. So let's go ahead and dump these in. This is the Simcoe. This is 1.25. So these are gonna go in now, and let's give it about 7 or 8 minutes. I mean, it's really supposed to be 5 minutes, but we'll go 7 or 8 minutes, maybe, and shut it down. And then I'll go ahead and add the Amarillo in here and whirlpool it, cool it down, and get it transferred over. So we'll be back. Bye. All right, everybody. So we finished that 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut everything down. The boil has ended. It's been a 60-minute boil total. This thing's going to get shut off. I'm going to add the hops in. So let's go get this turned off here. Disconnect the gas. This is what I always recommend. Let's just get this thing disconnected. Get this tank right out of the way. Put this over here out of the way. We don't need this no more. Okay. And if you guys notice, you know, while this thing's going on, I had like 55 minutes to burn. So this has all been cleaned out. My filter's been disassembled, all washed. It's all over here. So you got to make use of your time and get some of the cleanup started. So this is what we're going to do now. This is my cool down system here that I use. It's hooked up to my hose. So basically it's pushing cold water through this little circular device here. It's called the Silver Serpent, and then it pushes the water out the other end. But I'm going to put that in there in 1 second. I want to get this cooled down, but what I want to do first is add this. And this is the last step here. So let's get that in there. I'll go ahead and stir it in. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I'm really trying to do the best I can to give you guys, you know, an idea of how all this happens. So this is kind of now what I'll do. We'll put the Silver Serpent in right here. Let's get this in there, and I'll get it turned on. Take a little walk around the house. There we go. Okay. So some cold water pushing through. Let's get this over there. There we are. Okay. So now we're circulating cold water through here. It's fine. Okay. All right. So this is going to help cool this down, because right now this is temped at just shy, a little over 200 degrees. We want to get this down. I mean, I'm going to be fermenting this at about 65 to 68 degrees. I've got this already over here. I'm going to break some of that ice up, because once I get everything transferred into my fermenting container, I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to get it cooled down to like 68 degrees, my fermenting temperature that I want to use. It might even be a little bit warmer than that originally. Now I'm going to stick it in here. I'm going to use, I got a controlling device right here, a little Johnson control device here, and that controls this freezer, and it turns it into basically my fermenter, so I can put it at whatever temperature I want. When I get that down to the temperature I want, I will then pitch the yeast, and then that basically, you know, is how it all works. So once you pitch the yeast, you know, you give it about 12-24 hours, and you start getting some good yeast activity in there, and it starts converting the sugars over to alcohol. So this is cooling down. It's going to take a little bit. You notice already, I've already hit 180 just in that little short time period. It's cooling it right down. So we'll be back. Bye. All right, we're back. I just wanted to bring you back in here, because what I did, I got everything down. You can see the temperature is about 109 degrees. I went ahead and pulled it off that burner over there, put it on the counter. I sanitized my fermenting container. Now I'm going to go ahead and drain it off in here. Let's get it going here. Here we go. All right. So it's going to be a little bit, I mean, there is a false bottom on the bottom of this, so there's going to be some sediment and stuff that's down on the very, very bottom of this Spike Brewing 15-gallon boiler. But for the most part, I mean, you're going to get some sediment and stuff that ends up in the fermenting container here, which is fine. It's going to all settle down to the bottom. We're just going to let it drain out, fill up. I'm going to move it over here, get it into the ice bath, try to drop it down a little quicker to get it closer to where I want to be before I put it into the fermenting chamber. And then I'll go ahead and I've got some yeast in the refrigerator here. I'll show you what I'm using. I'm going to use 2 packets. I'll go ahead and rehydrate it inside, but just some Safe Ale US-05 dry yeast. So I got 2 packages here, which is more than enough. I've done 1 package many times, but I might drop 2 in there. So you can see it's go ahead and just drain it in now. There's gonna be a lot of sediment coming in there. It's all gonna drop down to the bottom of there though, so it's no worries. It will clear out. Plus, if I rack that off to the secondary container, I'll do it. It'll get a little bit cleaner when I do the last of the dry hopping. The only thing is, I did have a big boil off. I mean, I think I'm at like 5.5 gallons here. So, not where I wanted to be. I really want to put 5 gallons in that keg. I don't want to put less than that. And I think I might end up only having, I might be shy of that. But, you know, live and learn. So, next time I'll just, if I do the same recipe, I'll go with maybe 12 gallons and increase my grain a little bit, my grain numbers a little bit. So, that's about where we're at. So, I'll finish off with the yeast pitch and stuff with you guys, and that'll be the end of the video. But we pretty much went through all the steps here so far. Welcome back. The last little clip that I had, I was draining from my boil kettle into my fermenting container, and from there, once I got that completely drained, I moved it over to the ice bath, which I showed you. It was in that tin container. Had a lot of ice in there, and I cooled it down. I think I got it down roughly to about 80 degrees, and then I moved it over into here, which is my fermenting cooler, which I showed you before, which is all on control, and it's in here now. And the temperature got down to about 68 degrees. So I went ahead and pitched 2 packages of that yeast. I didn't hydrate it. It's a good idea to hydrate if you have 1 package. But if you're using 2 packages, really, it's not needed, because I'm really kind of like overkilling this with the 2 packages. It won't hurt it. It's just going to clean this up really fast and bring it down to where I want it to be as far as gravity goes. But all in all, it was a pretty good brew day. The only real problem I had, well, I had a few problems. Number 1, pH meter, batteries were dead. So I kind of winged it as far as pH. I had an idea where my pH was going to be and what I needed to do to correct that. So I went ahead and made those corrections, and I did that kind of blind, which I didn't overkill it with the acid that I put in there. So I think everything's going to be fine there. The other issue was I lost a lot of, I evaporated a lot during my boil. So I lost a lot. And I didn't get into this canister, my fermenter, what I wanted. I wanted 6 gallons. I ended up with just over 5. So when I drain out of here, with the trub loss, I'm not going to get a full 5 gallons into my keg. It's going to be probably like 4.75 gallons. So live and learn. But it was a good brew day. I appreciate any comments that anybody has on this. Again, not a perfect video. I know that. I don't do this too often, but I just thought it'd be helpful to get, you know, the way I do it out there. So if there's anybody else that's looking to make beer, they can see that, you know, you can do it. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.